How's it going, everyone? Today we're going to talk about OPEC, their cuts, how pissed off the White House is, and what is Saudi Arabia doing to kind of clarify, mitigate, bring down the tension as to these cuts. Because, I mean, gas is just climbing higher and higher. Everyone sees it as a political move, siding with the BRICS countries, Russia in particular, during this energy crisis slash wartime. So here's a screenshot. This is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the official government of Saudi Arabia, their statement. And they essentially want to convince everyone that their decision to cut the 2 million barrels per day is non-political. It is a consequence of economic context where they want to mitigate the volatility in the oil markets. So is this going to convince, especially the White House after, that fist bump? It doesn't seem like it, because some of the White House statements are, they're not looking so good. So they're essentially threatening the Saudi Arabian government with halting some arms sales, or at least they're going to reevaluate their relationship. And obviously, with the midterm elections coming up, the gas prices going up is a very problematic situation for the president and the White House. And there are some damning statements, especially coming out of Texas representatives, because what they see is an opportunity to bring back American oil and gas to full fruition to provide for the citizens here at home. So Representative August Pfluger from Texas District 11 said this is politics at its worst, that the White House are prioritizing their electoral outlook over the pocketbooks of American families and attempting to use OPEC as a scapegoat for the failing policies. Now, is that true? Who knows? But what we do see here is that the White House is absolutely pissed off. So they know that this is going to hurt their chances if gas prices keep climbing before the elections. I mean, you'd have to be a fool not to realize that. So Pfluger goes on to say, this admin needs to end its Green New Deal crusade and champion American oil and gas. Just obviously he's pro-Texas oil and gas. And it says, Mr. President, the cavalry isn't coming. It's time to return to American energy dominance. So I'm sure he stands to win too. Another damning statement by a Bruce Westerman, who's on the House Committee on National Resources. He says, this goes to show that what they've known all along, that the current administration are far more concerned with political clout than they are with implementing policies to lower costs for American people. Now, I don't think they're actively looking to make life more expensive, but whatever they're doing isn't working to help Americans. That's for sure. So here are the current national gas prices. The national average at $3.90, with the California paying, a little more than the average at $6.15, which is a lot. So while those on the other side of the aisle are calling for the current White House to do more to help the average Americans, John Kirby, this National Security Council, so basically White House advisor, some of them, they're accusing the Saudis of trying to spin or deflect from the situation. So he said that the U.S. has been talking to the Saudis about ensuring that Russia remain isolated in what was, and obviously unable to benefit from current oil prices. Now, how would Russia benefit from lowering output by OPEC? Well, if there's less product out in the market, prices basically can go higher, and then Russia, if it sees an opportunity to fill the gap of oil, they will sell their product, okay? And they could actually undercut the prices of OPEC if they deem possible that they could make some money. And of course, why wouldn't they? They would be stupid not to. Does that help the U.S.? Absolutely not, because the U.S. is still selling sending billions and billions to Ukraine to fight the Russians. So another statement by Kirby, the National Security Council, he he says that we presented Saudi Arabia with analysis to show that there was no market basis to cut production targets. So he was trying to convince the Saudis to not cut production. Why? Because many just simply say it's because of elections, but we don't know that. We don't know that. And they could easily wait for the next OPEC meeting to see how things develop. Probably true. The controversy erupted Thursday with a statement by the Saudis. This is that official statement that we saw, defending its decision to cut production. Now, the problem with this statement is that it kind of undercuts what the White House has been trying to do. And essentially, it kind of shows them asking or begging. It's just embarrassing because they not only did they not get what they wanted, which was not to have oil production cuts, they also got the statement from the government of Saudi Arabia confirming that they basically wanted to push back these cuts by a month for political reasons. And obviously that hurts them quite a bit, the White House. The White House advisor Kirby, he says that the cuts allow Putin to continue to fund the war machine, and it certainly gave Putin a sense of comfort. By how much? We don't know. This week, State Department spokesperson Ned Price refused to comment on reports that the Biden administration has begged the Saudis to wait and spare them the political consequences of next month's election. So this is obviously a dire situation for the White House. Here's another screenshot of the official statement. In this particular paragraph, says the kingdom stresses that while it strives to preserve the strength of its relations with all friendly countries, it affirms its rejection of any dictates, actions, or efforts to distort its noble objectives to protect the global economy from oil market volatility. And that makes sense. They can't have the price bouncing up and down. It needs to be sort of stabilized. So who's in the right? We don't know. Now, I have made a couple of videos regarding OPEC. Are they siding with Russia? And how Russia is essentially trying to make a new alternative system to combat the petrodollar. There's also a video on how the petrodollar came about, with Saudi Arabia and other OPEC countries agreeing to only take the US dollar. Henceforth, the US dollar became the petrodollar, and therefore that petrodollar led to the global reserve currency. Now, what's interesting about that, of course, is that anyone who wants to buy oil, guess what they need? They need US dollars. So what does this do for the dollar? That props up the value of the dollar, whether artificially or not, and that creates essentially the debt system that we have, where we print and borrow the dollar, because it's this beautiful, genius machine of how it functions on the world stage. And it's very interesting stuff. So when you have this power, this global power of the dollar system, where you can print and then other countries are required to use it to buy the world's most necessary commodity, it's just, yeah, it's unbelievable, the amount of power. So a lot of people, BRIC countries, China, obviously Russia, maybe even some of the OPECs, they're starting to question this. And potentially, this is one way where de-dollarization of the world is in its infancy, and it might accelerate. If OPEC continues to do this with the United States, no matter who's in the White House, if they continue this with the BRIC countries, de-dollarization will absolutely speed up, and the global reserve currency could be in jeopardy. Now, Fed Powell has said that there could be a future where there is more than one global reserve currency. What does this mean? We don't know. Is it gold? Some theorize it could be Bitcoin. It's a little bit of a stretch, but the point is, it is a problem for the dollar. Why do I care about this? Because if the dollar basically, if the dollar loses its global reserve status, it devalues the dollar, because then other countries who need the oil from the oil selling countries, they won't be required to use dollars. So what happens with that? They can use either local currencies, or they can use, whatever BRIC wants to use. That brings the value of the dollar down. That brings the euro down. That brings the West down. So they lose power. They lose power in their currency. And this, I think, is the most problematic issue facing the West. And maybe to a certain extent, the West, specifically the United States, they lost touch of that special place that the dollar had, that special, powerful place of the global reserve currency. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Smash a like, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.